needed to make a pretty big purchase, but I needed help figuring out what was best for me.
It isn't enough for people to see my ads. I need them to pick up the phone and make an order.
Most people shop online, so the 5 minutes they spend with me on the phone is the brand experience.
So I put in a number so people can call or text, so they can make the right choices.
Once I talked it through with someone who actually understood, the answer was instantly clear.
I'm pretty lucky because I get to listen to what my customer really wanted, and then I get to tell the rest of my team what I learned.
And that data gave me priceless information to help me make my campaigns better.
Hey, if you can help me find the best stuff for me and my life, I'm sold.
Conversation. It's what marketing aims for.
Conversation just makes our business better.
Conversation, it matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Gina Perini.
Hello again, and welcome back, and thank you again to Jim Carroll for sharing his perspective on innovation preparing for the future. It's a perfect lead-in to our discussion today. In a few minutes, I'm going to welcome our first panel, and they're going to talk about the exciting topic of growth in toll-free. But first, let me provide some context. Toll-free numbers are here to serve consumers. Their original value proposition, as you all know, was to avoid long-distance charges so that consumers could get the products and services and support that they needed. Consumers have so many choices now, right at their fingertips, regarding how they shop and what products they buy. Yet because they have so many options, they're calling for help. And when they call, they expect immediate response. While long-distance charges rarely matter today, consumers still want the products and services and support they need. In my opening presentation, I shared encouraging numbers about the volume of phone calls that are on the rise today, and we expect that to continue. And we also expect texting to follow suit. So while marketers and call centers are driving greater use of toll-free numbers to meet their needs, we need to start at the source. In this scenario, the need for person-to-person communication is the major driver of growth. That's because toll-free numbers deliver a unique value. They provide convenience of personalized access and expertise and support of a brand. Wherever the customer is located and whether they want to call or text. The number signifies the brand is here for you, is here to help you. So what does a marketer need today? Well, of course, growth. But it's hard to determine these days which ad channels will lead to sales and which ones lead nowhere. So testing is a major priority. And when a marketer invests in an ad, she wants a response, not just a view. And of course, we're seeing that play out in the rise of click-to-call and click-to-text technologies. And this response is the marketer's most important data. Which ad channels sparked engagement, and what response came from that engagement? What product was purchased, and what kind of relationship was formed? And the best part is that all feeds into better testing, higher response rates, and greater intelligence. Marketers need to connect to the highest value customers in a wide open marketplace. And toll-free numbers establish a direct line to what are often the company's best customers. Toll-free numbers not only give consumers access to the best brands, they also provide consumers the best access to those brands. And they're ready to do business with them. Today, call centers are transforming to be part of the sales process, to be that epicenter and home base for the brand. But with retail's move from desktop to mobile, call centers have taken on that responsibility in ways we have never seen before to create a seamless mobile customer journey. From the moment of initial interest to purchase, and all the way through to brand loyalty and advocacy. This is a turning point for customer engagement and care. Mobile customers are now positioned as the epicenter of commerce, and these call centers are the front line of those relationships and connections. Whenever a customer calls into a business, they share their preferences, their decision-making in rich, real-time conversation. What's driving greater value for toll-free in the call center is the transformation of that role into the epicenter, as I said, of that brand experience. And what value do toll-free numbers deliver? They deliver the literal voice of the customer to engage with the brand in real time. And they provide rich insights into what customers really want straight from the source. Toll-free numbers bring unique abilities to generate responses, like tracking campaign success and eliciting deep customer insights. Track the clicks that lead to sales. Toll-free numbers can extend the attribution from ads to actual sales. When a consumer responds to a click-to-call or click-to-text, the resulting conversation leads to extremely valuable information. Which ads and purchases created the most amount of value, and even what lifetime value. Empower your sales agents with real data. Marketers employ specialized software that links a customer's click-to-call and click-to-text response to relevant web history. This equips sales agents with the real-time conversation that can be tailored to improve conversion rates. This data can also be used to route calls and texts to the optimal agent. Determine campaign attribution to refine the strategy. Embedding unique toll-free numbers in different campaigns allows marketers to measure how well the ads performed based on content, channel, geography, demographics, and other criteria. You can make on-the-fly decisions and changes and adjustments on spend so that you can optimize the campaign. Measure the effectiveness of offline marketing. TV, print, and radio campaigns can be much more difficult to track than digital ads. Toll-free numbers are an effective analytics tool for offline channels, especially vanity numbers, which are easy to recall. And importantly, listen to the voice of the customer. Today, businesses are exploring the many ways that you can use voice recognition technology to drive high-value insights in call center conversations. These solutions convert customer voice conversations into text for analysis and rich data of this direct insight from the customer. To keep toll-free valuable for enterprises, we need to keep innovating, and we have some amazing examples of innovation sitting right in this room with us, you. I'm thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you and our panelists. There's much opportunity in toll-free, and we have just scratched the surface. You can create the future through your innovation creativity. We at Somos are here to enable and support that innovation, creating an environment that fuels your progress. And we're honored to be a trusted partner with you as we advance toll-free. But now, let's dig into the conversation. I'd like to invite my panelists up to the stage. For the audience, I'd like to introduce you each so they get a sense of who you are. And above them, of course, on the screen, you can identify them that way, just to make it easy once we open it up to questions. So first, I'd like to start with Jean Liu, who's the principal architect at Salesforce, the world's #1 customer relationship management platform and an innovator of cloud services, enabling businesses to connect and deliver personalized messaging to its customers through its innovative applications. Next, we have Colin Kelly. He's the CTO at Invoca. Colin co-founded Invoca, originally called Ring Revenue in 2008, with the belief that modern software telecom and cloud technology could be used to provide better solutions for marketers whose customers want to call them. Invoca has grown to be a leading software as a service company in this burgeoning call intelligence marketplace, riding the waves of innovation in cloud software, voice interfaces, machine learning, and mobile phone adoption. Next, we have Rich Scanlon, the president and CEO of CSF Corporation. CSF has enhanced their existing SaaS platform to provide integrated end-to-end provisioning, managing, and text enabling of toll-free numbers with innovative multimodal applications. And next we have Craig Lennon, strategic negotiator and manager messaging and voice at Google. Google is pioneering new ways for businesses to engage users, such as click-to-call and click-to-text technologies and advertisements across mobile search and more. Next, we have Brian Lynott, CEO at ATL Communications. ATL provides advanced toll-free and local number administration services to carriers, REST-orgs, and enterprise businesses through their enhanced number management platforms, which include LSR to activate porting, number protection, least cost routing, disaster recovery, and other mission-critical services. And last but not least, we have Douglas Gardner, the Douglas threw me off, who's the global head of carrier relations at Twilio. Twilio is a cloud communications platform as a service company that allows software developers to programmatically orchestrate communication and experience using its web services APIs. Thank you all for being here. Can I have a round of applause for our great panelists? So now you know a little bit about their companies, but I want to give an opportunity for each one of them to tell you a little bit more about themselves and their experience in toll-free. So I'm actually going to start at the end with Doug.
Thanks, Gina, and thanks for having us here. Thanks for the opportunity to talk a bit about Twilio and what we're doing in this space. As Gina mentioned, we're a software cloud communication company. In the context of toll-free, it is for us one of many channels to interact with the consumer. I like the idea of voice of the consumer. That's a theme that we talk about inside of our company quite a bit. So for us, what we see as the important emerging thing here is the orchestration of the communications, the conversation with the customer. So toll-free is one of those key components that is literally the voice of the customer among other channels like messaging, like bots, like IP chat and video.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Brian?
Thanks, Gina. So ATL is a neutral number administrator for toll-free and local numbers in the United States and hopefully around the world eventually. And we focus on the ability to drive number plan administration to our customers, which are usually carriers, operators, contact centers, call centers, and end users. And our goal is to provide the numbering services and the asset management as fast as possible. So from search, reserve, to activate, to deployment, we support those carriers and operators and their customers moving that to market, no matter what the communication platform is, no matter what the new technology is, if it's going to be voice or texting or teleporting, I don't know, holograms. At some point, we aim to deliver that, the numbering part of that. We think of numbering as DNA. There are no two numbers that are the same in the world, and we think they're very valuable to businesses. We always ask, how important is the phone to your business? And then we follow up with, how important is your phone number to your business?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks. Craig?
So thanks, Gina, for having us. So I'm Craig Lennon. I work at Google. I'm responsible for Google's voice and messaging interconnection globally. And that interconnection is an asset that Google uses to facilitate a lot of the examples you already talked about, things like click-to-call, click-to-message advertisements, but also a diverse set of kind of novel use cases across Google's product areas. So my responsibility is, within Google, obviously there's a lot of innovation happening at Google, and I kind of describe myself as the plumber. So we do the plumbing of the phone calls and the messaging, but it's an important infrastructure as Google brings new services to market. So.
Great, thank you. Rich?
Yeah, so I mean, based on the discussion earlier this morning and hearing everybody talk, we need to offer everything to everyone at all times. So that's what we do. No, but in all seriousness, for those who aren't aware of CSF, we help manage, it's a SaaS platform that we help manage the end-to-end life cycle of toll-free numbers. Our platform helps to manage over 50% of the toll-free numbers in circulation today. We also are involved, our product also helps enable multi-carrier complex routing for disaster recovery and least cost routing capabilities. We're also now getting very serious about investing in the messaging side of our product offering, through the acquisition of AreaLink earlier this year. So really just trying to give our customers, a fuller product suite of communications tools to help them better enable their customers.
Great, thanks, Rich. Colin?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here. When we started Ring Revenue in 2008, we figured we would have half and half local numbers and toll-free numbers used by our customers who are marketers, and it wound up being more like 90% toll-free. And that's because we work with big national brands, and they want that national presence. Back then, we were assigning numbers just for a campaign. These days, it's one-to-one. It's all the way down to an individual user. If any of you search for satellite TV in your city and you click through and wind up on Dish TV, check out the toll-free number in the corner. That's going to be unique to you, provided through us. We use a couple % of the numbers in the country just for that purpose. If you put something in your shopping cart and then call, you'll wind up talking to the agents who are appropriate for that product. That's something we didn't think was going to be possible back when we started, but that's what we've come to with that time frame.
Powerful. And Gene?
I'm Gene Liu with Salesforce. I'm the principal architect responsible for mobile messaging, architecture, and strategy. And what Salesforce is doing is that we are enabling our customers to use toll-free numbers for mobile messaging to talk to their customers. And as most people can probably, I assume most people would attest that they hate waiting on, being on hold on a voice call, and just about anyone under 25 years of age, or actually 30 probably now, they don't talk. They only text.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. So just as a sort of reference point for all of you, you've talked about toll-free and how important it is for your business. What do you believe that is the reason why toll-free is valuable, say, over other numbers in particular? I think, Colin, you mentioned they're national brands. Overall, how has this fueled your ability to do your job, to be able to use toll-free numbers?
They're geographically independent, I think, is the geographically independent, I think, is the biggest reason that they're associated with big companies. But yeah, we see that contrast. Some local businesses want to emphasize locality by having a local number, but just the opposite pressure for a big national brand.
Absolutely. Is there an ease to the operation of, is there an ease to getting toll-free numbers over other local numbers?
I'll start. Yes, absolutely. If you think about 10, 15 years ago when you called your local phone company and you said you wanted a new phone number, and then just try to remember back through, maybe 3 weeks later, a number was picked for you. Maybe 2 months after that, the number went live. What if you wanted a specific type of number and you're asking them to do a specific courier search and reserve? And the local telephone rep probably told you that that wasn't even possible. And you knew it was, but they were just going to offer that to you. And on the toll-free side, with the centralized SMS database, we're able to search and reserve in real time and deliver the number in real time and deploy.
Exactly. Great. And what are you seeing for the ways in which you're incorporating toll-free into your innovative products? You guys kind of touched on them, but if you could give a couple examples of how you've used toll-free as you innovated in your products. Yes, Doug.
I'll start in with this a bit. So as I mentioned earlier, toll-free for us is one channel among many. So for us, the evolution here in customer engagement is, for us, our expression of that is through our software platform. So unlike, I think, many of the companies here, we're not really in the business of creating an application or a specific service for customers or brands. Instead, we're creating a platform for developers to build these solutions. So what I'm seeing out there, the thing that's got me most excited at Twilio is around what we're calling our declarative API set. So in the past, our API sets were geared towards accomplishing certain tasks, and a developer would piece these together to create experiences. Now we're at a place where a developer can more declaratively say, here's what I want to do, and then we have tools to accomplish it. So for example, if you wanted to do a two-factor authentication, so a developer can just simply say in their code, oh, here's where I'm going to do two-factor authentication. They no longer need to think, well, I need to get a phone number, I'm going to do messaging, I'm going to do voice fallback. So for us, how toll-free weaves into this is when you think about a developer creating an experience, a customer experience, they want it to work omni-channel. So if they're going to do two-factor authentication, well, toll-free may very well be exactly the number that a message would come from or a voice call would come from. That would provide a great and easy way for the recipient to be able to call back in to their company or whatever source they would need to have some sort of a follow-up conversation. So that's sort of what we're seeing and what I'm more excited about. It's this evolution from the programmatic ways of doing things in the past to more of a declarative set of tools to be much more impactful with smaller investments, smaller efforts.
Absolutely. Craig, I know you had mentioned a few innovations that had started.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I think Jim talked about it a little bit before about how the innovation happens around these edges, right? And I think we see that one of the ways toll-free is useful for us in the way we do some of our advertising products and some other products is it eliminates the friction we would see at the customer engagement, right? So we can much more easily sign customers up to the service by simply allowing it to look and feel like what they're already used to with their own business, right? So it seems like a simple thing, but it actually allows for the service to be adopted much more freely. And then, like I said, around the edges is where, like, we've used things from, I don't know if anyone recalls, back in 2007, I think Google had a service that was called 1-800-GOOG-411, which basically was free directory assistance provided by Google through an 800 number. Now that sounds cool, and maybe everyone freaked out and thought we were getting into directory assistance, but really what's interesting, the most interesting part about that story is that what actually that was used for was to train a voice recognition technology. So basically all we wanted was the training data for our machine learning and voice recognition. And so an 800 number helped us achieve that, but it actually didn't, it was kind of a unique way of using toll-free services. So I think we'll hear a lot about click-to-call advertisements and some of the more core use cases, but I think it's always interesting to me to hear about how the innovation is happening around the edges where you might not have recognized it before.
Absolutely. That, I think one of the things that you mentioned about that I think is so interesting is how the number, by using that number, you knew you'd get the traffic to be able to develop your research and your data around, voice recognition or developing your AI. So I think that it shows the power of toll-free in a lot of ways. Gene, did you have something you wanted to say about innovation and toll-free?
Sure. So one thing that Salesforce has done by adding texting capability to our customers' 800 numbers and other numbers as well is the ability to, in the voice world, when a call center, when they call a call center, even though it's recorded, it's very hard for you to search on voice conversations, like trying to find the word foobar. I mean, the technology just, the search on voice recordings for foobar could be pronounced differently, different accents and so on, where with texting, it's been integrated in as text
Right.
into the Salesforce databases that the customers use. And so all of a sudden it opens up all kinds of searching capability, analytics that they never had before with the voice world, and just enables other capabilities for the customers, the enterprises.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think, just to jump in here, I think it's, what we're seeing is a little bit beyond messaging, right? I think the ubiquitous nature of toll-free numbers uniquely positions toll-free to bring us into this omni-channel kind of way of thinking for communications with customers. I mean, Jim touched a little bit on it during his discussion about how everything is interconnected, everyone wants a similar experience, and this idea of omni-channel, which has become a big buzzword in retail, most prevalently, I think is something that we're seeing in the market as well for toll-free. Like, since toll-free is ubiquitous, right, it is natural, it is virtual, you can apply any form of communication to toll-free, whether that's I want to email a number, I want to text a number, I want to send a video message, I want to use an application, I want to call the number. I want to do all of these things in one place and have a similar experience across all the communication channels. So for us, it's about developing applications that help foster that type of communication experience for a customer, because that's what they want. And we're going to try to encourage the industry to go that way. And I think you had mentioned call centers earlier today. I think, and as you said, tip of the iceberg there, I think we need to get them to move a little bit faster, and to do that, all of us up here need to invest in the technology to shepherd them along the way, because I think that's the next step for communications, beyond just, voice or texting. It's everything that we need to consider, I think.
Yes.
I think that's a really good point, and you kind of made me think. One of the ways that I think when you talk about the omni-channel and the customer, putting the customer kind of at the center of the experience, one of the things that we saw when we did click-to-call advertisements was we actually have an option for what we call a calls-only campaign. So what you're literally talking about is you're contracting with Google for advertisements that don't result in any web activity. The only way to contact the business is actually through a phone call. Yep. Right. So when you think of it in that context of the omni-channel, like, I'm sure Google did not start down that road to be in the phone calls business, right, but it was where the customer kind of led them to in that omni-channel. Is that here's how I prefer to hear from my customer. Mm-hmm. And so the business can literally say all I want, and I'm sure as we move down the text messaging, that'll be an option there too. Is where the only way to contact that business through that search ad is through text messaging, which would be kind of putting the customer at the middle of that.
So it's both omni-channel and then customizable based on, and you can use that across toll-free.
Right.
The same number, regardless of which one you choose. Colin, I could.
Yeah, we refer to the consultative sale as kind of the
consultative sale.
Yeah, that's
tell us more. Unpack that a little bit.
That's kind of what drives the businesses that most need phone service is consultative sales. So high ticket purchase
right,
items and just complex products in general.
Mm-hmm.
So insurance, financial services, travel, education, health, all these things require more consultation, and that's where we see more voice needed.
Do you also just see, because of all the possible options? I know I am one of those people I do search online and I am all over the place, and I usually kind of give up. And then, or I go to places where they'll tell me where something is the best, or, and I'll more than likely Google it to find a site to help me. But it's like there's almost an overload. So beyond the complexity, have you found that people are also just looking for just cutting through the noise a little bit of all of the options that are out there?
I think reflecting on the keynote this morning, and one of the things that I think it's both inspiring but also a bit terrifying is, there's so much competition today. I mean, almost in any genre that you work in, it's artistry to figure out how do you succeed in that, whether it's material sciences, like that. I think one of the taglines was, we'll be buying products that haven't been invented with materials and everything else. It just doesn't exist. That, I think, is sort of the challenge here, is we have toll-free as this core component of voice, and it's one of those things. Gosh, I think 5 years ago they said voice is going to be dead, and it's not. It is the true fake news that voice just doesn't go away. So the task here for this audience is, how do we how do we apply that artistry, the inspiration from all the other areas around here to create these great customer experiences, and what is toll-free's role in that broad experience?
That's a fantastic.
Yeah, so Gina, you always say toll-free means business, and we certainly believe that. And when you're doing your search for your product or your service and you're being overwhelmed, and maybe in certain older demographics, those type of customers want to call. They want to speak to somebody immediately. And if you don't have a good phone number and a way to process the caller, you might lose the sale. For maybe the Generation X, they're probably not going to want to call you, but they want to text you. And so it's being able to provide the services and the planning to deliver based on the demographic,
right.
and in real time and as fast as possible to cut through all of the other distractions.
So when Jim referenced the story about my son, so I have a son, Luke, he's 14, and he is loves all electronics technology, computer programming, everything about it. So he had this Fitbit, and this is what I think is so interesting. So he has a mother that says, when you have a problem, go fix it. I can't fix it for you. Plus, I don't want to deal with your Fitbit. So he was chatting online with his Fitbit and just was like, this is not working. I need to talk to somebody. Called Fitbit, and he was on the phone for a long period of time. And he talked to someone he liked the interaction. He didn't wait on the line. He would have hung up. So they quickly got him on with a support person. Anyway, in the end, I'm sure it took more than an hour, but he worked with them, figured it out. He ended up getting a new Fitbit, which made him realize the power of being on the phone with somebody, because he worked it out himself. He's 14 years old, right? So I think there is an element of, they recognize the challenges of all these texting tools, and this is a kid who lives on Snapchat, but he got on the phone and saw the power of, I got what I wanted out of it. So there is something transformative about that.
And he started via online chat.
Yeah,
text.
he was online chatting on this, and then it got nowhere. It was just like, I'm not sure what their mechanism is, but it wasn't meeting his needs, and he just said, all right, and it was a click to call to get
I think that's a great example, again, of all the different channels that a brand has to support. Mm-hmm. So there are elements of that, of how do you reduce inertia? Did there need to be such level of frustration that now we're in a voice call scenario? Should that have happened earlier in the experience?
Right.
Contextually, how that fits. So all the outreach that he was doing, are there ways to determine and to detect that sort of thing happening and have something a bit more proactive? Mm-hmm. Contextually, how do you layer in the communication so it's seamless to the consumer? Right. I think that's a great example.
I think what's interesting to me is, and you asked specifically about toll-free, what are its advantages relative to some others? So, I mean, when I look across my business in other parts of the world, what's unique about toll-free is that it supports that kind of intermodal, multi-channel experience, right? Like traditionally in the US, brands would have a short code for their messaging, perhaps a toll-free for their voice. In other parts of the world, that's very different, right? You have all different numbering range, free phone, shared costs, all this kind of stuff, where toll-free actually has the opportunity to kind of be that one telephony source of truth. And as you were saying before, it means business. So it kind of has a real opportunity there to be the central hub of that experience. So.
And I think actually your son's experience was a bad one, right? Because now he's more apt to just pick up the phone and call, and Fitbit has lost a channel of communication with the customer, right?
Right, because it has to get pretty bad for him to
exactly,
do that.
Right? So now he's going to remember that experience of being poor virtually, and now he's going to just pick up the phone and call, right? So Fitbit has done itself a disservice by having an inconsistent customer experience across multiple channels. Right? It's a very hard problem to solve, right? Because you'll never know what type of problem comes up and which channel they're going to choose to communicate with, right? But if you can solve that issue of having a consistent customer experience across multi-channel and using something ubiquitous like a toll-free number to associate all of your channels with a single number, I mean, that's powerful from a brand recognition perspective. That's powerful from a customer experience perspective, right? And it's super efficient. Right? So I think there's a lot of headroom here and I think we're at the tip of the iceberg of trying to solve that. I mean, most people are just trying to solve the consumer aspect of shopping, right, in an omni-channel perspective, but I think customer experience is going to become the big differentiator for companies as they grow.
Yeah, I got a Zappos. This is all my own personal story. I got a Zappos box because I like shoes, and on the box in big letters was, call us if you want to make an exchange or you just want to like a friendly voice, and it was the 800 number. And I looked up the 800 number because I was curious, and there was it was an 877 number, and it was nowhere on their website, nowhere on their materials. And I was like, I wonder if that's a demographic number, like it was attached to women who like to buy a lot of shoes in a certain area or an age group. I don't know, but there was definitely a draw right on, as you open the box, because Zappos doesn't have a lot of interaction because you just go on, pick what you want, although they have a huge customer service and they're kind of known for their differentiator is their customer service and being very kind of quirky and fun. But they were driving me to that number on the box. So I thought that was really interesting too.
I can't think of a brand that does not want to talk to its customers.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's sort of what it's about, right? You want connection, you want cohesion, you want a fan base for your brand. I mean, brands today, they're not local in nature.
I think cable companies would be an example that doesn't want to talk to their customers. Just throwing it out there.
I'm glad I don't work at a cable company. Otherwise, that might have insulted me.
I know so we've talked a lot about sort of the technology of it, but I'd like to talk a little bit about sort of there was a little bit of a discussion about, well, do we have the right technology to identify speech? And when people call in, how do we derive data and analytics from that information? And Colin, I know you guys do a lot of work there. So I think that I'm very interested. I'm sure we're all interested in more of that.
We do. I mentioned we assign one-to-one numbers all the way down to an individual person with their exact search history. And also we apply voice analytics to the calls. So we'll run that through transcription and then do machine learning against that. So we can actually fire off events into our customers' marketing technology stacks is what they call it, because they typically have a bunch of different software, and sell them. These are lookalike calls. These calls that happened are very much like those calls that you identified to us earlier and trained. So we can actually flag them within a second or so of the end of the call. And that's something that we couldn't do even a year ago, but we can now.
That's fascinating. I think that's really encouraging, because if you can really get that data and do something positive, because I think what Jean was saying was, it's very difficult. Text is great because you don't have to worry about what did that person say, it's written. But in this case, you're taking that voice and bringing much more powerful data and analytics.
Yeah, and then feeding it into the existing analytics systems. They've already got, Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics and Google AdWords. They've already got a big stack. We just have to connect this data back into it and complete the omnichannel.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to Doug's point before about fake news, that voice will be dead, is that I kind of look at voice, maybe this is a little crazy, but I kind of look at voice as an API, right? That it's a terribly inefficient one that involves two humans today, but I definitely could see a world where the voice and the ability to transcribe it and to transcode it and to be able to have potentially machines talking to each other in a voice channel, right, is real potential. If you look at it less as, has to be two humans talking to each other, and it could actually just be the API of preference for that channel, I think the possibility, I don't think voice is dead, right? I think that is
right. So we consider enterprises and the connection of enterprises with, really understanding their customers. I know that particularly at Salesforce, it's about this entire sort of how does that relationship get well tuned? How do you think what's your view of how toll-free plays in that role, and what's the importance of enterprises really capturing the power behind those relationships?
So in our case, in fact, this goes back to one of your earlier questions about that I think it was Brian that answered about toll-free versus local. In fact, something that when Brian was talking about, that we actually have customers that, like, I think most everyone in the room knows that to get a 212 number in New York City is like
Yep.
impossible nowadays, and same with 415 in San Francisco and all the hot cities, and that it's actually, I don't want to say easier, but it's a little bit more flexible to get a toll-free number, even if it's not an 808
Yeah.
XX toll-free number. And so I forgot which one of my colleagues here said it, the toll-free number actually becomes the brand non-geographic identity for the business. And there's a lot of power to that, and it's universal. In fact, something that I think I said last year, which is something that we've heard, is that it would be nice if it worked internationally.
It would be.
Right.
And speaking as an engineer, there's no technical reason it can't work internationally. It's just a matter of getting all the international players involved in the food chain to cooperate. And in fact, I can tell you from our own personal experience that texting to US toll-free numbers actually works in some countries outside the United States, but not universally, unlike the voice network. And that's something that, because if I'm traveling and I've got programmed in my phone 1-800-XYZ, whatever the company is, because I text them occasionally or frequently, just because I'm roaming somewhere, I'm not going to go and try and figure out how do I get to them while I'm in Germany or while I'm in Australia. I'm just going to go hit my address book and blam, go away. But yeah, no, that's part of the hopeful future, I guess.
Hope for the future, absolutely. And it makes total sense. I mean, with the advances in technology, over an IP network, you should be able to do that. And it's just a matter of, as you said, coordinating those that are involved. And
Can you guys help us with that?
maybe?
Yeah, but I think I think everyone in this room should be thinking about that, right? Because the world spins around us, right? Like other people are, right? There are other people that manage their brands on an IP network globally that don't have that challenge. So,
Right.
so we should work to solve that challenge.
I'll add one point. If we think of global economy and numbering plans in other countries, the United States is we're a little unique because we're such large geographic area using the same numbering plan. But if you go into Europe, in 1 hour and from Amsterdam, you're in 3 different countries. And each country is using a different dialing plan. And it's confusing to me because I'm not there every day. And plus, I don't want to have 4 different cell phones for each country I'm in. So we look at enum, E164 number mapping. At the end of the day, for the life of me, I can't think of anybody that's going to try to dial an IP address. But they're going to dial a number. And is it easier to get a global look and feel of a number of a toll-free versus some local number with some local dialing standard that is different than what they're used to? And so I think toll-free helps bridge that gap. It's just easier because it means business.
It sure does. So I wanted to talk about one area that I think is also going to be a change, or a game changer, I should say, in the industry. And that is that the FCC recently, I don't know if many folks know, the FCC recently proposed that in connection with the 833 code opening, that there are certain new numbers that will be possibly auctioned. And also that there's a possibility of opening a secondary market on toll-free numbers, as well as eliminating prohibitions on brokering and warehousing and hoarding. So this could change significantly how your business models around toll-free numbers. It's just a proposal. The FCC is actually in an open meeting right now, voting on whether to move forward with a possible rulemaking on this. Don't worry. There will be a comment period that will open later in the fall, and we will keep you abreast of this. But this was a very new development in the last 2 weeks. And this could change in some ways how toll-free is acquired and provisioned and the asset of the toll-free number. So I wanted to put that out there. We're going to have a knowledge bar booth out in the foyer with people who are there to help you learn more about it. But beyond the sort of procedural or other issues and things like that, I wanted to open that up to the panel. I know that there are a few people that have had a chance to look at this proposal. What do you think this means for toll-free? And I see Brian.
So I think it's very exciting. I entered this industry in 1999, and I reflect back on what it was like before Somos, before Gina and her team, and vanity numbers. I think we have a bunch. If we did a poll, there's probably a lot of vanity companies in the audience, and to be able to buy and sell and broker numbers is what we've been aiming for a very long time, and it's very exciting. Hopefully, are they voting right now?
Right now.
Right now it's happening. So the FCC is voting, so that's pretty exciting. I can't wait to get the update from
they voted it. So Anne?
They voted it. It passed 4-1.
Wow.
So they voted it.
Wonderful.
So the world has opened up.
Yeah.
So the rulemaking the rulemaking process will start. There is a timeline, there's comments. I want to continue talking to you guys about this, but just so folks know, if you want to know more information, we'll have folks out there talking about it and helping you learn more. We'll be getting you more information because we believe that people should be involved in the conversation. But I want you to finish what you were saying.
My last point would be the value of a number when you can actually own it. So our number as an asset. Before, because the ownership was complicated, how you describe that and how the number transfers worked and what the actual rules, specifically what the rules said, not what the industry did, but specifically how a number was supposed to be transferred from one end user to the spare pool, then to another end user. That's the rule. That is complicated, and we would, in the industry, created all sorts of workarounds to get that done. And so to clean that up and then allow the industry, especially our vanity teams, to go out and possibly derive debt facilities off of their numbers, the value of their vanity numbers, because now ownership is cleaned up. I think that's pretty exciting.
It is. I just want to add one thing, and then I'll let you jump in, Craig. I think one of the things that needs to be worked out is what are you getting? I think that if you're auctioning numbers, if numbers are being, on a secondary market being transacted, what are you getting? We are talking with the FCC about that. I mean, is it a license? Is it some other holding? Because if that's going to happen, you have to be able to transact on it. And so that needs to be worked out, and I think the FCC will need to hear from you. You're the ones that are living and breathing this industry. They're going to need to hear from you about what you think that should look like.
Yeah.
Craig?
So I think it's, I think a couple points. One is I think it's really interesting, if you look at toll-free numbers like any other kind of limited resource, whether it be wireless spectrum or things of that nature. This is the behavior that those assets are usually distributed in that way. So it kind of lines with that. There should be a lot of experience at the commission as well as with companies around auctioning. And that I think is the second point. Is I think you talk about where's the future. People are going to be working in jobs that don't exist today. Well, it sounds to me like there will be a toll-free second market for toll-free numbers that doesn't exist today, that someone will be the de facto business around how that market works, right? We do okay in our auction business on ads, but I think there's a very real possibility that there will be businesses now that will come out of this that just don't exist in this space today, which will be interesting.
Right. Okay. So a lot to talk about. Again, we'll have more information out at the Knowledge Bar. And I can't say enough about participate in this conversation. This impacts all of you. The FCC is always open and welcome to hearing your perspectives. You live this business. You know where the rubber meets the road on how this should look. I think the concept, clearly the commission wants to move forward on it. And now they want to open up, the process of getting your comments and feedback. So again, we'll keep you in the loop, but encourage you to reach out. So now, I'd like to open up questions from the audience. You can come down to the front microphones. We also have questions that are being texted in, which will be, I think, just read at the microphone. What I'm thinking about, I think would be important is, what would you like to ask this panel? Are there innovations that you would like to add to your toll-free business but are not sure where to start? Are you already on the way, but you maybe need to understand what's needed for the future? In an industry that's changing so fast, it can be difficult to pivot and to understand where you should invest and how you should scale quickly. And these panelists have all experienced many challenges as they've gotten to this place, and that many that you've maybe are also facing or might face. So this is your opportunity to ask them questions, learn more, and continue the conversation.
I have a question on toll-free texting versus calling in a toll-free number. I am like my kids, where I am now texting a lot more, and I needed to text to get help for a particular. This was actually a shoe place, believe it or not. Men buy cool shoes too, and I like shoes. But anyway, so my question is I sat there online just waiting when I texted versus if I would have called. I seem to get faster service when I call versus text, and I'm curious how the industry is handling that and what you're seeing. Maybe Gene, you've got some comments on that.
That's interesting that your experience, because our customers have found the reverse. In fact, a lot of our customers have said that they like the texting channel because it enables their agents to actually handle multiple conversations at once. Just like, I don't know if you ever do it, but I myself, I'll have 2 or 3 texting conversations at once myself, and I can imagine the agents doing that. That's why I'm a little surprised about your experience.
I think there's a little bit, just in my experience speaking to a lot of different customers, the maturity levels I find in interacting with customers for texting can run the gamut, right? I think we have very sophisticated customer experience centers where they're quick to respond, understand the talk track, right, and have their people well trained. And then you have people who are just starting out in toll-free texting for customer experience or support, and they're not really sure what to do, right? I've talked to people who say, I have no idea, how to approach this, versus like, I've been doing this for 10 years. So I think we're still seeing the maturity scale ratchet up a bit. So, I don't know the particular business, but that's kind of what I've seen. And so I would expect to see disparate experiences across that, just based on what I've seen in the market.
And I would echo that. So one of the things we see in our click-to-call and click-to-message businesses, so on our click-to-call business, we operate a robust set of infrastructure to facilitate that call, but we don't manage the IVR on behalf of the customer, right? That's something we didn't want to get into. There's people who are very good at that. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're seeing on the click-to-message side is the maturity of that managing of the call center, like on the messaging space, isn't there yet where the businesses are on the voice side. And again, similar, we don't see that as a space where we add a whole lot of value. There's people who know how to do those call center applications very well, but we also see it as gating to the adoption of our own service. So we want that problem to get solved.
Yeah.
Because it'll unlock value from on the ad side for us.
And I think it's important for everybody in the audience. All Restborgs in the audience here, you guys will be hopefully providing the service to your customers. So having that point of view, understanding that there are different levels of experience when rolling this out to your customers, and having that point of view, okay, here are the things you should be doing. Here are customers that are doing it right. Here are pitfalls that you might want to look out for. Having that kind of expertise and be able to provide that consultative approach will help people get comfortable with it. I think people just underestimate that everybody understands how texting works because we all do it peer-to-peer, but business to consumer is a very different animal with texting. So I think people are starting to come around and realize that and need to come up with a methodology of how to approach that.
I've heard a lot of sort of oh, it's hard to transform the call center, and how do they retrain your team or bring in new team? Have you guys experienced some of that, or helped companies, or seen how companies have addressed that challenge? Because I imagine as Resborgs, you're like, oh, you could do this, this, and that, and they're like, oh, my call center is not built that way, and there's all these other things. Have you guys seen any resources, Colin?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I thought you were saying. Oh, Doug.
Yeah, we see that a lot. And I think one of our big customers that came on board over the past couple of years is ING Bank. And they had the same, we're saying much the same thing. It's like, we have a problem, and our customers are expecting us to interact in ways that we are challenged to provide with the current way of doing business. Current ways being with big infrastructure providers for call centers, and having to use system integrators to build any new experience that they wanted to create. So what ING did was they moved to us to be able to create these kinds of experiences. They know that for them, the future of their business is dependent upon how well they interact with the consumer. So they made a very bold step in ripping out a lot of the classic technology and adopting a more agile model. So it's really about how do you add agility, how do you deploy and iterate and build better experiences. That's I think how they're addressing it. They're addressing it by looking at new competitors in the marketplace, new entrants, and new tools to be able to create these better experiences in faster turnaround time.
Right. I think even Jim was talking in his keynote about the key around the innovation. The key is good partnerships.
Yep.
Because you're not going to be able to create, there's people that have figured this out. And so how do you find those people? And it kind of occurs to me that we could provide, forums or resources for people to at least just know, okay, if I have somebody who's really struggling, they want to do this new service, they just don't know how to transform. How do you have resources for them to say, I've got solutions for you? Maybe we don't exactly do it, but we can help and help you partner, or you do know how to do it.
www.google.com is a good launch point.
But to that end, we work with Doug, we work with Gene, right?
Yeah.
Google has a very open platform because there's things that they do and that they do that we don't, we don't care to do, or we wouldn't be any good at. So.
Right.
And that helps solve the speed issue too, to a certain degree, right? If you decide that you can't do everything yourself, but you need to move fast, that helps mitigate that a little bit.
Right. Helps with speed. You can be a lot faster with good, smart partners. Absolutely. Oh, hi, Danielle. We got a text question.
We do. Came in through our toll-free texting number. So slightly different topic. I think, Craig, this one's for you. And the question is, can Google set up a system so that people can use their voice to place a toll-free vanity number call? So the example that that our participant gave is a voice command that would be something like 844 Hey Somos, and place a call that way.
So the question is, can Google create the ability to, via voice, make a call to an 800 number? Is that?
I guess instead of a click to call, maybe a voice.
So with the
Right. Well, so one of the things that we did, so I don't know.
I'm sure you guys have that somewhere.
Yeah, I deal more in contracts than in code. But one of the things, so like I mentioned, we run a platform that various Google services use, ads being one of them, but one of the ones we brought to market rather recently was on the Google Home. We actually allow it to make phone calls now. And what we see is there is quite a bit of phone calls that go to businesses, right? So you can, and that leverages a lot of the internal data. This is where the importance of Google, the toll-free number being associated with the business is important, because we don't say call 1-800 XYZ. We'll say call Phil's Deli, and if that contact is known to us, we will place the call. So I think that's but that association is only possible because that Google My Business entry has made that toll-free number a part of their identity, and we leverage that linkage. So I guess that's maybe a plug for Google Home and not really an answer to the question, but
right. No,
the ballpark.
it's thinking about, more people don't want to press or search or find anything, just ask it. I know, again, referencing my own family, my kids ask Siri and Alexa everything. It's very annoying. But clearly I'm an old lady. But they, that's just what they know. They get very frustrated when I Google it. They want me to just ask Siri. But it's very interesting. Well, Siri probably just Googles it. But I think the key, sorry.
No,
Hello.
no, you can keep going on.
No, I think the key is around partnership and innovation and really thinking about that future. Go ahead.
Well, and so following up to that, and you can't have a futurist exploding our heads all morning without expecting disruptive questions to start coming up. So at what point does Google Home decide that it doesn't need 800 numbers, that if it's identified the business and they're develops and Google doesn't have to own it, but that there's a parallel voice communication channel that supersedes not only toll free, but the traditional phone system, and where does that fit in with all that?
Yeah, so I think that's I think about this a lot, right? Because like I said before, the world moves on without us. I think we already live in an environment. Like I talk to mobile operators all day long and remind them that this is already happening, right? People in China engage with businesses directly over IP messaging, not via phone calls, not via text message, right? It's the way those markets have evolved. So I think it's a real issue. I get to live in an environment where the infrastructure that's important to me in my role at Google is the more traditional telephony and messaging infrastructure. But to your point is, yes, there is definitely an IP interconnection where everything goes over an IP channel. It's happening. Whether Google enables it or not, it's happening.
And follow up.
I want to add in, we don't get to decide that.
Yeah.
Consumers decide that. I mean, it's how folks interact with brands that decide that. Our role is to, again, make those experiences so that when the consumer wants to reach out, there's a pathway to do so. The challenge for the group here, if you're thinking only in the context of toll-free, it's what are the things that we can do in toll-free to keep that channel a relevant part and a growing part of the conversation.
No.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Sorry.
So, thank you so
what
much.
I say is not always popular.
No, it's a very good point. So these conversations are very important. I encourage you to continue to have these conversations here at the summit. This is why we're all here. This is why we want you here. And also, this is our opportunity to engage with each other around what are the new innovations, what technologies are available, how can I move fast? And we have another question.
Yeah, so I've actually tested like Siri, Alexa, and Google Help, and none of them will do like Siri, call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. They won't work, but that's just going back to the last question. Mine is for toll-free texting and the limitations of if I wanted to text Progressive, and they use 1-800-PROGRESSIVE or State Farm. They're all over that traditional, 7 digits or 10 digits. So is the technology changing to allow for longer texting? Maybe going back to the international issue as well, if you do have longer numbers, if the dialing plan changes, how can that be enabled so that you can have these longer numbers? Because there's quite a few companies, very large ones, that are using longer than the traditional format.
That is an excellent question.
Can I clarify? Long code texting in international is to their dialing plan, but in the United States it would be 10 digits.
Yeah.
And you're asking if it's a vanity that spells something longer than the 10?
Right, and I thought maybe international would also.
So in dialing, it just drops. When you dial on a vanity, it just drops the last digits unless you're into some voicemail system, which is more old style now. So that's a great question.
Yeah, but texting, once, and like I know on Apple, sometimes it'll convert, like it'll actually convert it. So if I start texting a word, it'll convert it, but Android won't do that. Then of course, if it's longer, it just fails. It won't go.
I'd speculate it's going to drop the 11th, 12th, 13th digit.
For voice or for texting?
For texting. It won't. It'll connect.
I thought it does, but you guys would know better than I do. Because I think my toll-free number is 844-SOMO CEO, and I think because we have an application that addresses it, it's fine, but I actually have to give people the numbers because I think it doesn't go through if they do it.
The issue is it's a literal match versus progressive match. It's an architecture issue.
Not
I mean,
sold
if-
yet, but
if-
stay
if-
tuned, says
if-
Chris
if you're-
Curry.
Yeah, if
Chris will
you're
be on
hanging
the
your
next
hat
panel,
on
right?
innovation.
Yeah, Chris is on the next panel.
On text
So
messaging.
or on the TSS registry panel, so you can talk more about texting then. All right, one last question. Danielle?
Okay, thank you. This also came in through our texting platform. It's on a slightly different topic, so you can let me know if it's appropriate for this panel. I think it's directed to Jean. Speaking of innovation, could you talk about the roadblocks that are holding back IP peering for toll-free? And this question, relates to both voice and messaging.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Someone would have to fess up on their question.
IP peering.
Is that a polite
I don't
way
know.
to ask a question?
So
You guys have any idea what the question is?
Is that the politically correct way of asking a question?
I don't know.
And there's a different question underneath.
So I'll venture an answer. I mean, so like I said, we work with mobile operators and carriers all around the world. I would say, really broadly, it's legacy infrastructure investment. So yeah, it's cost. It's an economic issue, right? Enum, it exists, it works. We use it in some cases. But it's about large mobile operators with an embedded base of infrastructure that quite frankly isn't broke. It's fit for purpose. But to get them to kind of uplift that, right? I mean, we're talking about voice here from toll-free. I mean, you have class 5 switches all over the country that don't do what's being described there. So how do you basically move from that legacy infrastructure to new infrastructure? And I think, like I said before, the biggest challenge is, and kind of relative to the question before, is that you have to do it at a pace that the competition is unbound by that challenge, right? Like you can contact businesses and brands in all IP on WhatsApp, right? You just can. And so that's the competition. So how do you get from that legacy infrastructure to that? I think that's the challenge in my view. It's not necessarily the tech doesn't exist. It's turning the ship.
The factors get quickly out of our control. What would I like to have? I would like to have an IP world in the voice context where I am IP peering for voice connectivity around the world. But I can't have that today. So there are, whether it's certain countries with how they regulate the telco systems, and we have to keep in mind that there's a lot of money in voice, but also it's a very taxed medium. So when you think about what does it mean to move everything over to IP, well, for some companies, that's a material reduction in revenue. For some governments, that's a significant impact to their tax base. We don't always find willing partners to evolve the networks to more of the ideal world that what we would perceive as an ideal world of IP connectivity and internet.
Right. So there's work to be done. We got to move quickly. And, I think there's a lot of important conversations here that we can continue. And I look forward to continuing those conversations. And I'm sure the panel joins me in looking forward to having more conversations on that. So I would like to thank our panel. Thank you so much for your time and insights.